You're listening to Spainfully Honest, the podcast where me, Paul,
And me, Catherine, talk about what it's really like living in Spain.
each week we'll share stories, tips, and honest conversations about daily life here in Spain.
Whether you live in Spain, you're thinking about moving, or you just want to know a little bit more, you're in the right place.
So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get Spainfully Honest.
Good morning and welcome to episode 15 of Spainfully Honest. And today we have a very special episode. We've got my mum on with us today. Bernie, welcome. And this week we're going to be talking about what happens if you have a health issue when you live in Spain. So we're going to ask my mum all about her experiences. So hopefully you can get some advice about what happens if you're here living in Spain and you have a health issue.
Yep, it's good. I haven't done it, so I can't really contribute that much.
Yeah, no, I've only had babies, really. I haven't really.
To start off with then, please could you tell us about yourself, what you did when you were back at home in Dublin before you came, and why you chose to move to Murcia?
Okay. The first time we ever went to Spain was I was 20 years old and we went on holiday to Marbella in 1981. And I thought, I'll never die in Ireland, that's for sure. And so we've been going on holidays, sun holidays ever since. And we were always talking about maybe buying a place in Spain. It was never in my head a permanent move, never. Maybe in Joe's head, my husband, Captain's dad. It's permanent for him, but it was never permanent for me. It was always about a holiday home. So we went on lots of sun holidays when Catherine was young, and all through the years we've done a lot of traveling. And so we decided then that that's what we had planned to do, a holiday home. So then Catherine went to study in Madrid, and then Jamie came along. So for anybody that's lucky enough to have a grandchild, and how you feel about a grandchild, it's completely different to how you feel about your children. Of course you love your kids, but how you feel about grandchild. So when Jamie came along, there was no way we could be separated from him. No way.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we knew that Catherine would need us.
Get back.
Absolutely. That's the thing about a grandchild. You have all the love and all the experience with them, but you haven't got the responsibility. You can just hand them back and it's free. Just haven't got the sleepless nights or anything.
Yeah.
So that's really was the catalyst to us looking to move over. Now we were still at that point we weren't thinking of buying, we were thinking of renting over here. But our next door neighbour was a policeman in where we lived, and he had been sent abroad for a year as part of his job. So he rented out his house and had a really bad experience and had to put a lot of money into his house then when he came back. So we thought, we're not going to do that. So we decided then we'd sell up. And at the time, the property market in Dublin was really buoyant in that. So we sold the house in 3 weeks. And we were looking at an area. We didn't want to go north of Spain because the weather, we love the sun. And we didn't want to go too far north because the weather isn't great. We didn't want to go down Costa del Sol. We'd done a lot of holidays down there, and we didn't want really a holiday resort. We wanted somewhere that was a Spanish town with a really Spanish feel. And so we needed to be between two airports. So we had Alicante Airport and we had Murcia Airport. So that's why we kind of looked in.
But you were still working then, weren't you? You were still going forward.
I always say we bought a property 20 years ago in Spain, over 20 years ago, but I moved over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I was working for almost 16 years over and back.
You were the first person that I knew did that. I didn't know anybody else that did that. You were the first person.
Yeah, I never planned to do it. I thought I worked for a mental health organisation in Dublin, and I really loved my job. And my boss was great. We're still friends today, and she didn't want to lose me. So I said to her, I came up with this idea. But for the first 5 years, I was only over here for the weekend. So literally, it was a holiday for me when I was over here, and I wasn't interested in learning Spanish. When I was only here for a couple of nights, it was party central when we were here. And so Joe was here all the time. Catherine was here, obviously. Catherine moved down beside us then after, in the February. Yeah. I think we bought the house. We moved over in January, and Catherine moved down beside us from Madrid in February. So that was brilliant, So I was commuting over and back from Dublin for 16 years almost. And I never planned for it to be like that. So when we were talking about buying a house in Spain, I could never envision myself working here. And I never have.
Yeah.
I never have. It wasn't a decision that we made, with our head, we made it with our heart. And, if we had had the information that you're giving out on this podcast now, we would have done things completely differently.
Yeah.
Completely different. So the information that you're giving out is really fantastic, because each week when I listen to it, I go, oh, I never knew that. And we're over 20 years here. Yeah. So it is invaluable. So that's what happened then. Joe used to look at houses and when I go for the weekend, no, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that one. No, I don't like that. This is what I want. And we decided we wanted a new property. We didn't want an old one. So anyway.
You don't like higgledy-piggledy, as you say?
I don't like higgledy-piggledy. I had contours.
I love higgledy-piggledy.
Oh, yeah. I thought I like rural. And we went on holiday to Tulada. Do you remember that? Yeah. And for our 25th wedding anniversary. And Jamie was on board in Bay. And so I thought, oh God, this is lovely, lovely big house, rural. Oh my God, it was pitch dark at night. I couldn't see our hand in your face. And I thought, oh no, I couldn't be doing with this. I was afraid in the house when I was there on my own in the daytime. Yeah. So no, I said, we're not doing that. And then I thought I'd like to be in a Spanish town, with the little whitewash houses and up this little mountainside. And then we went to stay in Compota, which is a lovely it's gorgeous town down in Malaga, gorgeous. And we stayed in a little higgledy-piggledy house and it was lovely. And I thought, no, I don't want this either. It's too inaccessible and we weren't thinking of getting older or getting sick or anything like that, So we thought, no, we're not doing that. So we decided we want to be beside the sea.
And
so
that's the drive down from Compota.
Oh my God.
Maybe your heart is in your mouth.
Whiten up.
Near here, up in the mountain near Alama. And it was scary. And then once we went to look at it again, and this car had gone off the edge.
Oh my God.
And that was it. The whole family, no, okay.
Nope.
But when you're coming down the mountain in Compota to get down to the main road, it's the passenger that's on the way down that's looking at the 50-foot drop. So anyway.
And when you're on a bus, it almost looks like it's going out.
But it was lovely. It's a very special space that we really like there. We've been back a few times actually. But anyway, so we wanted to be beside the sea. So we just found this house to rent in San Pedro del Pinar, which was great. And so we rented here for a few months and Joe's looking around at the properties and I'd come and see them at the weekend. And that was really how we got our first property.
We recommended right away.
We bought the house and that was grand. And then I was only commuting over and back every weekend, I wasn't interested in getting into Spanish traditions, learning to speak Spanish or anything like that. So after about 5 years then, I went job sharing. So I was working for a week on, week off. So I was here for a full week and then, in Ireland for a full week. But still in my head, my life was in Ireland. Yeah. My work was in Ireland. Most of my family were in Ireland. My doctor was in Ireland. My friends were in Ireland. So I wasn't really here, I was here and I spent a lot of time with Catherine, Jamie, Joe, obviously, and all of that. But in my head,
I wasn't. Yourself.
Yeah. And I used to meet, people on flights and they'd say, oh God, you have the best of both worlds. And I never thought that. I always thought, I want to be here all the time. I want to be in Spain all the time, but obviously I had to work. And I could never, as I said, envision myself working here at all. I could never envision that. So I didn't. I suppose COVID happened was really what that, and then I was made redundant in 2020 from my job. And COVID happened and that changed everything then because traveling over and back wasn't, you weren't able to travel over and back and all that. And that's what really happened. And then I was here and when COVID happened, that was the first time that I said, I want to learn to speak Spanish. Yeah. Right. And that's when we did an online Spanish course, which was fantastic, Now, we didn't keep it up, but we did learn.
But it's a basis, isn't it? It's a great basis to start learning.
Yeah. So that's how.
And then just thinking about that, there was always those things as well that was when the volcano erupted in Iceland and the ash, and then was always the worry about the flights, whether it was getting here or going back. And then remember, it was like the crazy snow that wasn't around as well.
Right.
It was always like those around Christmas as well. It was always around Christmas, and you're worrying, were you going to be able to get here? Were you going to be able to get back? I think a lot of that played on your mind as well.
It did as well, because other people used to say to me, like, you talk to people in airports and on airplanes, you know, and strangers ask you the strangest of questions that they think it's okay to ask on an airplane. But anyway, they used to say to me, oh God, it's great, you know, as I said, you have the best of both worlds. It's great, you know, but the stress around things like that, going, oh, is the flight going to be on time? Is the flight going to be late? Because the air traffic controllers in France were all going on strike in the summer. And then there was the ash cloud, but I didn't get home. There was bad weather when I didn't get home. And then, you know, so it was stressful.
Yeah, I get stressed enough booking one flight once a year to go to England, and I having to get every single week there and back.
But it's amazing what you get used to, because it never bothered me going through airports and, you know, all of that, the security, you know. I'm like, I got to know like a lot of the people. So, yeah. So when COVID happened, then everything changed. And I always thought that when I was finished work, because my work was so busy, it was stressful, and I was so busy that I always thought I'd be bored, you know. God, I haven't enough time to be working now.
I never have time to do anything. I used to work 70 hours a week, and now I haven't got time to do anything.
You know, it's pretty.
So that's kind of the story, how we arrived where we are now. You know.
Yeah, very good. So I guess to move into the health issues, when did you start having health issues? And as you said, you were fit. There wasn't a bother on you. Sure, there wasn't.
No.
You never really had any issues at all before this.
No.
And you want to tell people what happened to you and how you started to have problems.
Okay. I'd had a couple of gut issues in 2022, and that's when I realized I'm histamine intolerant. I never knew I was histamine intolerant until I was prescribed by my doctor high doses of folic acid, and that started a whole cacophony of problems in my body. And it took me about a year with Dr. Google to figure out what these symptoms I was having. I never had ever in my life. So I looked, and it turned out I was histamine intolerant. So certain medications, supplements, and that raise your histamine level in your body. And it's kind of like, to describe it, it's kind of like a mini anaphylactic shock. So it gets so bad that your throat actually feels like it's going to close and you can't swallow. And in general, it would be headaches, you know, hives, pains and aches and stuff like that, and bad stomach cramps. So, but I realized I was histamine intolerant.
Did
So
you get like acid reflux?
acid reflux, yeah, and that kind of destroyed my throat. The acid didn't just go to my stomach; it came from my gallbladder, and I had really bad throat for about 6 months, I'd say. But that was kind of okay. I got through that, and we had a lot of appointments in Los Arcos in the hospital. I got through that. That was fine once I realised what it was and knew how to manage it.
So did you find that you were telling them what you thought it was? Or was somebody trying to work out with it?
Yeah, they'd never heard of it. You know, they didn't know it's not an illness, it's a condition. So they'd never heard of it, and they kind of thought I was bananas, you know, really. So that was an issue I had in 2022, I think. So, but then in 2023, I was sitting watching reality TV for about an hour.
Tell them what you were watching.
I was
Kardashians.
The Kardashians.
Anything you get, eh?
I was watching Kourtney Kardashian's wedding in Italy. And so I had been sat for a long time on the chair. But anyway, it was later on that evening. I was getting up off the sofa. I always sat with my feet curled underneath me, because my feet are always cold. And I was sat with my feet curled underneath me, and I went to get up off the sofa, and I went to put my cup down on the coffee table and stand up at the same time, and I twisted my back. And my God, I've never experienced pain like it in my life. My muscles went into spasm, and I just couldn't move. So we won't go into all of the details of that, but it was horrendous. And my whole thing is keep moving, you know, don't sit down, keep moving. But when I think back, if you hurt your neck and you do anything with the vertebrae in your neck, the doctor will put a collar on, you know, so you can't move it.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same with the bottom of your spine. I shouldn't have been moving it at all. So for a long time, I was doing all the wrong things. So even though it's 2.5 years almost since I hurt my back, since I twisted my back, I'm really only rehabbing it for about 1.5 years. So for the first year, I was doing all wrong things. So anyway, that's what happened to me. And to lose your mobility when you're so used to being so active and going to the gym.
It matters to me, to be honest. Oh, I need to sit down a little bit longer than I already sit down.
And therein lies the problem, is sitting down. The reason that my back was unhealthy was 16 years of sitting on flights, sitting in airports, sitting at my desk and work. So you can't injure a healthy back. And even though I was exercising, that saved me till I got to 61 years old, 62 years old, before I injured my back, because I would have done it a long time before that, only I was going to the gym. But I wasn't progressing at the gym, because I was. When we were in the gym, we stopped going to the gym during COVID because you couldn't go anywhere. And we got a few weights and we were doing them at home myself. COVID changed everything, as I said, you know. So for about 1 year, I was doing all the wrong things. I went to the doctor here when the pain was horrendous. And I can't take medication because I'm histamine intolerant. Lots of anti-inflammatories and lots of medication interfere with your histamine level. But I didn't realize that until much later on, that's what was affecting me. So that's what happened. That's how I injured my back, and that's how I ended up in the situation I was in.
Yeah.
So when did you sort of diagnose at the beginning, or did you go to a doctor, straight away after you had the problem on the sofa?
No, I went actually to the hospital first, because when I was doing Dr. Google, my bladder was affected. So and also what my bowel was affected. Not in a serious way, but I could no longer feel when I needed to go to the toilet. I couldn't feel when I needed to do a pee. And so I thought, this isn't right. So we went to Urgencias, A&E, and Catherine came with me. And the doctor told me there, can you remember this? He said to me, your back issue that you're having is absolutely nothing to do with your bladder. They're two separate entities, like your heart. Now, Catherine was translating for me because at that point, my Spanish wasn't good enough to be dealing with a medical situation. Probably isn't good enough still, but I can deal with it now. One thing I'd say to anybody listening to this is listen to your gut. You know when something's not right with your body, listen to your gut. And I went home and I said to Joe, nah, I never had an issue with me bladder before until I hurt it back. And I said, all of a sudden I have these issues. So I said, no. So it's the reason I went to the hospital in the first place. So what happened then was pain just kept getting worse, worse, worse. And I've quite a high pain tolerance, but the pain was horrendous. So that's how I went back to the doctor, and I was unlucky really, because our doctor that we had in the clinic here, when you go to the health centre here, you're assigned a doctor. She spoke kind of fairly okay Spanish, and it was good. She left. We don't know where she went to, but English, yeah, sorry. And she left. I don't know what happened to her. So every time I went, it was a different doctor.
Yeah.
So you're having to explain in my really bad Spanish.
When you started feeling not well, did you know what to do? Did you know where to go?
Oh, yeah.
Just for listeners, if they're having any health issues or anything like that, and they're worried about maybe having health issues, they might be thinking, well, what do you do? What's the first thing you do? Where do you go?
Okay. If this had happened to me in Ireland, I would have automatically gone to my GP, my doctor.
Oh, one thing I was thinking, do you think you went more online? Do you think you were searching for stuff online because you were in Spain?
Definitely.
Would you not have done that in Ireland?
No, I wouldn't. I had a really good doctor in Dublin, and she was only around the corner from my job, so it was grand. So I would have went to her.
Yeah.
I think she may have referred me to the hospital, and because Joe, my husband, Catherine's dad, worked in one of the biggest hospitals in Dublin, we never had a delay in access to really good health care. We never needed voluntary health insurance because there was always somebody say, oh no, just drop down on your lunch break and we'll have a look at you. So we had that, before. So I did feel a little bit isolated as to, oh God, where do I go here? But because it was a physical issue, I thought, I'll go to a physiotherapist. So that was really after the A&E and the bladder business. I went to a local physiotherapist, stroke osteopath. Yeah. He was lovely and he was really good. And he told me stop moving, stop doing whatever you're doing. And so I went to him on every week, privately, paid for him. And I went every week and he was really lovely. And I'd say to anybody who hurt their back, go to an osteopath.
The only thing I'll say is, and I'll ask you a question as well, is number one, were you already set up in the medical centre? And if so, what paperwork did you need to do that? And number two, if you're sometimes, or a lot of times, there are public osteopaths as well. And so the only problem is the doctor has to recommend it to you. But if you go to your doctor, they can send you on then to one that you don't have to pay for. So maybe it's a good idea to go to your GP first. Maybe it should always be the first step. I don't know. And then they might be able to assign you one that's public if you don't have the money to pay for one private.
Yeah. Now, I probably would have done that if we had then the doctor we have now.
Yeah.
But because when I went to the health centre, I was getting a different doctor each time, I really didn't have faith in it then.
Yeah.
But we have a wonderful guy now who's lovely and doesn't take any chances and refers you on to whoever you need to be referred to. But because I had that experience then, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I would say, yes, I'd agree with you. That yes, I would say go to your doctor first, but because it was a physical problem, that's why I went to Antonio. So, but there's a funny story about the health centre. I've been going privately, and it was one-on-one, and it was a full hour, and it was fine, it was great, and he gave you, don't do this, when you go home, don't do that. So that was fine. It was expensive. So I went for a period of time, and I got kind of okay, and I thought, oh yeah, this is grand now, I'm motoring. But then the pain just kept coming back because I wasn't doing things properly. So I went to the doctor and she said, no. She sent me for an electromyography. Electromyography, it'd be in English, which is electric shocks to your feet and legs to see is there nerve damage. Oh. And it's not for the faint-hearted now, I have to say. So it was in the hospital, in Cartagena Hospital. We went and they were lovely. And when you go to the hospital here, it's not like, if your time is 10 o'clock, you'll be seen in and around that time. There's not like for hours, which is great, So we went and we had it done. And when they got the report back, yes, I had really bad nerve damage. So therein lay the problem with my bladder and my bowel, because I had nerve damage. So they said, she said to me, and she had no English whatsoever, and she said, we have to send you, she said, to physiotherapy in the other health centre. So I thought, oh God, this is great. I said, I'll be getting physiotherapy that I don't have to pay privately for. So they rang me. I only got home from the health centre, and they rang me the next day and said, you have to be there Monday. And I thought, this is great, So I went to the bigger, your local health centre. I went down, and it was 8:15 in the morning. I went down, we were sitting outside, and next of all, another guy came along, and I said, have you got an appointment? And he said, oh yeah, 8:15, yeah. And then somebody else came along, and there was about 10 of us, all going in and saying, and I thought, oh God, what's this? So it wasn't one-on-one, So we went into this big room, and everybody was in various stages of undress, whether it was a neck injury, a shoulder injury, a back injury. I was just glad that mine was my back, and it didn't have to undress any forward. So we were all sat around, and really what it was heat therapy with a kind of massage pad on you, and you were given your own pad, and so you brought that home, and so this pad was put on my back, and the guy was lovely, and the physiotherapist put up to as high as you could stick the vibration, and mine was up to the top. And I said, no, that's fine. And then we were sat there for 20 minutes, and everybody when I saw people arriving with their books, I thought, what's all this about, So anyway, that's what it was. And you were given then, if you had a shoulder injury, you were given pages of exercises and stretches to do when you went home. So it was for 6 days, completely. And I went home and I was doing these exercises I was doing because I thought, oh God, this is great now, I'm on the road. But so I was doing the exercises. Some of them I couldn't do, the stretches and that. This is too sore. So at the end of the 6th day, the physiotherapist, and he had no English, everything was in Spanish. And he said to me, "Oh, well, Bernadette, how are you?" He says, "You know, I know." And I said, "God, I have a lot of pain when I'm trying to do these stretches." And he goes, "Oh," he says, and I said, "Is that normal?" And he said, "Oh, no, that's not normal. A little pain is, but not normal." So he went down and he was typing on his computer. And I said, "Oh, this is great. It's going to send me now somewhere else." And so, and then he said, "Oh, okay, that's it now." And took the pass of everybody. And he said to me, "Oh yeah, adios," he said, and off I went. And that was it. So I continued to do those exercises for about 6 months.
Just to help the listeners.
Okay.
So what paperwork did you need, first of all, to go into the medical
I didn't
center?
answer that question.
What did you need to get in place so that you go to see a doctor to begin with? How easy was it to see a doctor and then see a specialist?
Okay. Well, the first thing is you need your tarjeta sanitaria,
So
because your health card. And to get that, you need to be resident. You need to have your social security number, and you get your tarjeta sanitaria. And once you have that, access all areas. It's fantastic. And it's the first thing they'll ask you for when you go into the doctor, unless they know you know, like our doctor knows us now. But if you go to the hospital, even if you arrive in an ambulance, the first thing they'll ask you for is your card. So you have to make, it's the first thing you ask you for. And because when they put your number into the system, everything that you ever had wrong with you anywhere is on that system. So
do they ask you for your NIA or anything
no,
like that as well?
everything's on that card. Your NIA number is on that card. So that's very important. But yes, we already had that in place when I got ill, which was great, you know. And the only reason we did that was because of COVID, because we thought, you know, oh, well, we're going to need this because how long is COVID going to last? And we need to get vaccination and stuff. So that's very important. Yes, it's very easy to access the doctor here because they have this wonderful thing called the Portal Paciente, which is a patient's portal, and it's an app on your phone, and you put in your number in it, and you can make an appointment for the nurse. You can make an appointment for the matron, which is the midwife. Your doctor. You can have a telematic appointment. So, for instance, if you think that maybe you've got something that's contagious or it's a flu and you don't want to go to the doctor's office to be spreading the germs, you can send him a message and he can send you, or he and she can send you a prescription onto your portal, and you just bring your phone down to the pharmacy and you get your prescription. And prescriptions here are absolutely for nothing.
So
you pay 10% of the overall price of the prescription. So, you know, when we came from Ireland, everything's a fortune. That was really, you know, eye-opening.
What was the comparison, just to give people an idea if they're listening from another country? So what would you have paid in Ireland for a prescription, for example?
Okay, to go to my doctor was €60. And that would be back in, say, 2019, probably would have been the last time, 2018, the last time I went to the doctor, actually before that. But it's €60, and a prescription probably would be, depending on what was wrong with you, a prescription could be 50, 60, €70. So it didn't cost anything to go to the doctor here because it's free, which is a very important point. It's free. And you don't abuse it. You don't go to the doctor more often because it's free. You only go because you have to, because who likes going to the doctor? And the prescriptions could be 15 cents, 150, you know.
Depends what it is, doesn't it?
Depends on what it is.
Percentage of the
It's
price.
10%, you know, so that's fantastic. And the portal, I couldn't praise that portal. So anybody who's thinking of moving over to Spain or coming to Spain, I never thought I was ever going to get sick. But inevitably, the older you get, the more likely you are, you know, so, or injure yourself. So it's very important to get all of that paperwork in order, the first thing that you should do. Yes, it's very easy to access doctors, and actually they're very helpful in the pharmacy as well. Very helpful, because I got something in my eye, you know, and she said to me, "Oh, well, how about that?" She gave me these drops, and after about 2 days it was gone, you know, so they are helpful. So if you were here on a holiday or whatever, before you move over, is that, oh God, try the pharmacy.
They're promoting that a lot in the UK as well.
Really?
They go there first, and I think it's right here because they always have to have. I think it's the same as the UK. They have to have a pharmacist in the building. They can't just have receptionists or whatever. So there's always somebody there. So when you do go to the doctors here, compared to back home, what are the differences between the two sort of experiences that you saw?
Okay. Well, the main difference is the language. The main difference is the language. And if I could go back 20 years, I would be learning Spanish from the very beginning, absolutely the very beginning. So the main difference is the Spanish. But the doctor, I will speak about the doctor that we have now. Main difference with him in Ireland, you know, going to my doctor in Ireland and going to the doctor we have now, it's very similar because he tries his best to speak a little bit of English and I can speak Spanish. So I speak Spanish to him and he tries to speak back to me in English because the difficulty is I know what I want to say in Spanish, but it's when they start speaking back at machine gun, you know, rapid fire Spanish, I can't understand.
The importance as well is that the doctor needs to know everything, don't they, to help you properly. They need to, and so they need to understand you properly. And this is where, you know, you do see people say that I'm not taking a translator. But if you know, imagine if you can't explain what's wrong with you, how can they help you? You know, so, you know, if it's something really serious that you find difficult to explain even in English to somebody else, you know, you need to go to the doctor with a translator.
Now, on that point, I did go to the hospital. Catherine came with me a few times to the hospital when I hurt my back. And, you know, she was translating for me. But I really felt I couldn't advocate for myself. I felt that they were speaking, the doctor or clinician, whoever it was speaking to Catherine, not me. So I'm sitting there thinking, what did he say that time? Or what did they really mean? And, you know, and then Catherine translated back to me and I felt I couldn't advocate for myself. So I thought after the few times that he came with me, I thought, no, I'm going to learn all the terminology and all of the stuff that I need to know about pain, my back, all the parts of my anatomy that I need to be able to describe. And after that, I went for myself. And I found that when I went on my own, they have a little bit of English, but as I said in previous podcasts, they don't like to use it because they don't want to make a mistake.
Not get it wrong, because you know, they're probably prescribing the right thing, but you misunderstanding what they prescribe.
Yeah, and another big difference here is when you go to the doctor or when you go to the hospital, they print out everything for you that, you know, from A to Z that you've said and they've said, and they give you a copy of it. So even if you don't understand, don't be put off by trying to advocate for yourself, because you'll get it in writing, and Google Translate is great. You can put your camera on and you can see exactly what it was said. And I think that's great for accountability, because, you know, it's all there, you know, what was wrong, what's wrong and all that, you know, and so that's really terrific. And that's different, because if you went to a hospital in Ireland, thankfully I haven't had loads of experiences of going to a hospital in Ireland, but if you do go, of course you can understand what they're saying. So, you know, but they're telling you, but sometimes you forget, you know, if you're in pain or, you know, or you're anxious, you forget what did they say? Whereas you can go back on these notes and say, well, yeah, that's what they said, you know. So that for me was really good, you know.
Very good. And I was going to ask you, you know, what was tricky about the talking to doctors and how did you manage? So I kind of guess you answered it a little bit, but is there anything more you want to say about the language or any recommendations for people listening?
Well, definitely learn Spanish because there's nothing difficult in Spain if you speak Spanish. Nothing difficult. Going to shops, restaurants, doctors, hospitals, if you speak Spanish. And you can understand what they're saying back to you is the main thing. You can learn all you like to what you want to say, and then they answer you and go, what was that? That's the most important thing, is to learn the language. Now we're beach people, so for the whole summer we'd be on the beach, just the colour. And so once it comes into the end of October, we'll be back learning our Spanish for the winter. And I'm going to go to an intercambio. There's doing one in one of the local pubs in the town. So we did it when you were in Pinatar Arena.
That's right.
And I really enjoyed that. You know?
I went to one of those.
Yeah, so we are going to go to that again, you know, come October or November or whatever. And because if you're not using it, you can learn it as much as you like. As I said, we did an online course during COVID, which was great. I don't know whether you want me to mention it.
It was good to tell people. It was online, wasn't it?
Online, yeah. It was James Spanish School. He's only up there in Pilar de Jaradada. And
he's online, is he? So anyone
online, yeah. Online. We did online classes.
Could people, even before they moved to Spain, could they?
Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
There you go.
So for anyone thinking of coming over, do your online. It was James Spanish School. And he was really good because he's an English family, but he was reared in Spain. So he has all of the terminology that you say, even if you learn Spanish from a book, he would say, no, well, Spanish people don't say that.
Yeah.
So he's telling you the way it should be said and what they say and why they say it. And he,
give me a link. We'll put it in
he
the
was
show
really,
notes.
really
So,
good.
yeah.
So we did the first 40 lessons. Sorry, James, that we get the link for this. We've still 10 more to do. So it was 50 lessons. 50 lessons. So we've 10 more to do. We will do. And there's tests, exams, and you have to pass a certain level to be able to progress to the next one. And the next 50 lessons that we are going to do are all speaking. And it's children speaking, older people speaking, you know, your own age group speaking. So it's to listen and different dialects, you know, to get the different accents. So it's really a really good course.
So that on the podcast now, you're held accountable. Tell people how you're doing.
Spanish. You and Catherine can do it in Spanish now, having the occasional word.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it's also about the paperwork. So, and like I say, on when I had the accident a few weeks ago, it's not that they wouldn't treat me if I hadn't had the right card at the time. It's just how it's going to be paid for, effectively.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was there. They put me in the ambulance, and at that point, I wanted to see my TIE.
Yeah.
And my medical.
Right. So they asked you for your TIE and your medical.
And
what is it?
because I was stood in front of a cruise ship, I could have been a tourist.
Of course.
So then it would have been a passport. And they were still, the ambulance was already there. It would have driven off and left you on the side of the road. But it's how it would have been paid for and financed. So I guess. But once they saw that, that was it. And then, like I say, exactly the same. When I got to the hospital, they just brought my notes up. And, you know, I haven't been that many times. There's not many notes. But all the information was there. And they had everything down, my address, my phone number, everything. That was all the
shared system, isn't it? So,
But you have to be able to get to that stage, you have to have the padron. So you have to live somewhere, you have to have an address, then you get the padron, then you can go to the medical centre with the padron and then you do that.
It's actually difficult to get a padron insurance on.
So, but on the flip side to that, if you haven't done that yet, so you just come over and you haven't set up and perhaps you're looking for somewhere to rent or whatever, you're going to need private insurance. Yeah, you're going to need some insurance.
And what's that card people have, an E15 card or something? Is that what it's called? What's the...
It's your European health card. That is okay if you're coming on holiday.
Yeah.
Or you're here for a short period of time, or you're buying a place in Spain and you want to use it as a holiday home.
Yeah.
Your EHIC, I don't know what it's called in the UK, but that's European Health Insurance Card. It is in Ireland. That will do you if you're here short term, you know.
So it might cover people when they first move over.
That will do you until you get your paperwork sorted.
Yeah.
So don't panic thinking I have to get all this done. You know, we're buying a house, we're doing this, we have to get a solicitor, you know, to get the kids in school. So, you know, that will do you until you get time to get your paperwork done. And if you explain that when you go down to the medical centre, they're very nice, you know, and they want to help you, you know. You're ill, you know, so you're vulnerable. So they want to help you. They're very nice, you know.
Yeah. And maybe listeners from the United States, they would definitely have to have health insurance set up before they move, I think. So. Yeah. We're going to do a health insurance episode. I remember we're going to get somebody on from a health insurance company to talk about that. We're not going to go too in detail on health insurance today, because of,
depends on the status and why you're
exactly. Because as I say, Irish for me is pretty handy, pretty easy. You were British before Brexit, so again, easy. So yeah, we need to get someone on from a health insurance company so they can give us, especially for people from the United States. I think it's difficult when you're outside the EU. It's more difficult. Yeah. Probably even people from Britain now, probably going to be not as straightforward. But yeah,
you do need to look at where you're going to live and the services of that. You know, if they're recommending certain providers such as Sanitas, you need to check that the area that you're going to is good for Sanitas, or do you want a different one?
That's a good tip.
Because when we were in a situation where we did have a private health policy through work, and then we found that it was the nearest place to go, 70 kilometres away. You know, so it just wasn't worth having that. You know, you need to change the provider to have somebody with services locally.
Yes. Yeah, that is important. Yeah. Very good.
Have you ever been to hospital and stayed in the hospital? You know, had to be like, could you call it patient? Admitted, that's the word. Yeah.
I was with my back on 2 occasions. In April 2023, that I couldn't eat, and the weight was literally walking off me. And so they were concerned about that. So when I went to the hospital, I went to the urgencies, they took me in because I didn't realise It's your body. Your body is wonderful. And it's your body's response to extreme pain. The appetite just closes down, just shuts down. I couldn't eat. Everything looked awful to me. And so they took me in, and to manage the pain, to see could they get me to eat. So I was on a very bland diet. And the first time I was in hospital, I was in for a week. And the hospital is lovely. Absolutely
Mind you, isn't it?
Yeah.
right here, lovely hospital. And all of the rooms are 2 beds and an ensuite bathroom. So you're not in a big ward with a load of people. Now, unfortunately, my first experience when I was in my patient neighbour came from a very large family, and they were coming and going at all hours of the day and night. And I was so sick. And I didn't realise I'm on intravenous painkillers, which was making my histamine intolerance worse and worse and worse. And I just couldn't eat. I was like a rasher. And but the great thing about the hospital was somebody can stay with you all day.
Yeah.
Dad, Joe stayed with me all day. He came up about 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning after doctors do their round, and he could stay till all night if he wanted.
I think we
And
found with like the idea is to have one person.
Yeah, not the whole family.
One or two, because they always usually have like a recliner chair next
Oh
to the
yeah,
bed, don't
they had. And
Everywhere I've
actually,
been.
I was so sick, the pain was so bad one time that I was on morphine, and I was coming in and out of like a coma. And Joe said I couldn't go home and leave it like this. You know, I thought I was dying, you know. And so he stayed all night in that chair,
Yeah.
holding my hand. And for somebody to try to describe it, you know, the fear, the vulnerability of somebody who was so independent, flying over back from work every week, the vulnerability, the fear, the loneliness of being in a strange country with doctors and nurses talking all around you, you not really understand what they're saying the first time. I couldn't explain that. But to have somebody there holding your hand was amazing. And the reason that they have a family you're allowed to stay is to make life easier for to free up doctors and nurses. So if we went for little walks, you know, we went together and stayed all day. I had every test on Sun. I had MRIs, I had CT scans, I had blood tests, I had ultrasound scans. I had everything done. And they came back then with my diagnosis at the end of it, all printed out for me. Now, they did assign me, my first doctor's name was Carmen. She was lovely. And she spoke English. So they do assign me a doctor.
We try our best to.
They do try. You know, it wasn't perfect, but it was grand. She came back and printed out everything, all the tests that they'd done, I print out for that. And as I said before, that's invaluable to be able to go back over when you're still in pain and you're still struggling, saying, oh, you know, that's what they said. So I had 2 herniated discs in my lower back is really what I had. And so she said to me, you need to exercise. You need to be exercising. And that's when I came up with the ding, ding, the Back in Shape program, which is a London-based leading osteopath, an online program, completely free on YouTube, a master class, 80 minutes long, I think. And that was the first time that I understood what happened to my back, why it happened to me from all the sitting and all. I kept, you know, I shouldn't be like this, you know, I'm as fit as a fiddle, you know. And it was wonderful. So anyone who has a back issue, Google Back in Shape program. They're not back in shape, Back in Shape program. And all of the answers are there. Now, I became a member because I wanted to, you know me, Catherine, I go gung-ho into everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely 110% into everything. So I became a member, which was great. So you have added support, not just the free stuff. So you have access to this osteopath. His name is Michael Fatica, and he knows everything about your back. And I started to mend from that day forward. Now I'm still mending, and I'm no longer a member because I ran into an issue, because I went so gung-ho. I ran into an issue with my knee, which is overuse of my knee, overdoing the exercises. My back is 99% better now, which is great. But unfortunately, in May 2024, I ran into another issue where I lost control of my bladder completely through, I think, overdoing the exercises. You know, your sciatic nerve is, it's very important not to overdo stuff with your sciatic nerve, but I didn't realize that. So I actually lost control of my bladder. Now, every clinician and doctor that I had seen, all that was said to me at the end, if you ever lose control of your bladder or your bowel, go straight to urgencias. How do you say that?
Urgencias.
Urgencias. Go straight in. So I thought, we're in trouble here now. So it could be an emergency operation. So I landed back in hospital then in May 2024, same issue. We went into the hospital, and because it was that, I didn't have to sit in A&E or queue up or anything like that. You know, I had to take a number, but I was straight in, and they thought, nope, straight up to ward. And God love the poor guy. He was lovely. He was actually a consultant that came down, and he was starting to talk to me in Spanish, rapid fire Spanish. And I said, well, I always used to say, oh, solo poquito español. I only speak español. And he nearly lost his reason because he thought, oh my God, how are you going to understand me, you know, and all this. But I think I had more Spanish than he thought I had. And he actually spoke a tiny little bit of English. So between us, he calmed down after a while, and we thought, you're coming straight in. I had no control of my bladder, which was kind of a horrendous situation to be in. But my second experience in hospital, it was again the same, lovely ward, 2 rooms, but my neighbour had a very small family, so and she was very quiet, you know, so it was a much better experience. And also, I didn't accept any medication second time, nothing, because I knew that was what's making me sick, and I couldn't eat the first time. They didn't give me anything except intravenous steroids, which was fine, but I had a completely different experience. And the food, the second time in the hospital, was absolutely amazing. I was on a very bland diet the first time. And I always say now, you know, when you go anywhere and you have ensalada rusa, which is Russian salad, the nicest ensalada rusa I ever had was in the hospital.
Oh, that's good. You say the food in hospitals is awful.
Oh my God, like it was your breakfast in the morning, it was a hot bread roll with olive oil, you know, which you'd kind of think if you're over here first, you'd kind of think, oh my God, no butter, you know, olive oil. But the olive oil was lovely on it, and it was always coffee, and I don't drink tea or coffee. I would drink chamomile tea. Oh yes, I got chamomile tea. And then you got your menu for what you wanted, and your lunch was 4 courses. And you had your merienda, which is like a snack in the evening time, which was like tea and cake and stuff like that, you know, and fruit, and a 4-course lunch, and then your 4-course dinner in the evening. Oh my God, I was like a rasher the first time I was in. I was waddling coming out the second time. So like, that was amazing. So anyway, I had more tests done, and they realised it wasn't going to be a serious issue, and that they sent me to a urologist to come up to see me. And they said, we'll send you to the clinic to see your urologist. And he gave me some medication that I took for a little while. And he said, in 2 weeks, he said, your bladder will be fine. And on the 14th day, it was fine.
Oh, that's good.
And I didn't have to keep taking them, thankfully, because they were interfered with my histamine level. So he was a lovely man, spoke perfect English.
Okay.
But I did feel that I did learn the Spanish. I did learn the terminology around going to doctors, hospitals, and all of that, because I felt then I was able to advocate for myself, which I felt was very important.
Yeah. And while we're talking about hospitals, as I said, I can't remember was the podcast on or off, but I said I had 2 babies in hospital, and everything was the same. So, you know, the food was lovely, you know, my choice of food, everything like that. Alex, my other half, he could stay with me as well at night time. They leave the baby with you. I don't know if they do that in Ireland. So in Spain, they leave the baby with you. I remember people saying, listen to some friends talking about in Ireland, they take the baby away sometimes at night altogether.
Well, when you were born all those years ago,
Maybe
they took you
now.
away at night, which was great to get sleep.
I think that's what they do, don't they? But here, people, your mother or someone can stay with you all night. So basically, between you, you're looking after the baby all night. So they stay with you, or your husband or whoever you want can stay, and that they sleep in that lovely recliner chair that's beside the bed as well all night long.
So when we leave the hospital issue, I just want to point out, when you asked about differences before, thankfully we didn't have many experiences in Ireland of going to accident and emergency, but we had 2 experiences, and the first one was with you. On New Year's Day, Catherine had a really bad...
Oh, I thought you meant the one where I got robbed by a car.
No, that was... But we had 2, which then,
I forgot that we being run over by a car.
Yeah, the run over by the car was first, actually. So, but that was a little different in that you arrived in the hospital yourself. But my other experience, which it was on the 1st of January, Joe, her dad, had gone into a hospital on the other side of Dublin to have a hip replacement. And Catherine had a very bad virus over Christmas and all that, and just kept, and she wouldn't go to the doctor, and just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and we end up in A&E on the 1st of January now in Ireland after New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
It was chock-a-block.
How long were we there?
We were there for hours, and then they said, "Oh no, we don't have an ENT."
It was most of the night, wasn't it?
No, this was in the first hospital,
Oh, right.
because we had to go in taxi then to another hospital on the other side of Dublin because they didn't have an ear, nose, and throat. It was freezing, and we were in A&E, and I felt like killing somebody in that A&E because you're up to 90, and I went up and I said to the nurse with my credit card, I said, "I don't care how much this, but get somebody to see my daughter now." "Oh, she can go private once you get up to the ward." I said, "You're going private, we're up to the ward, we don't need to go private." We were there all night long. And so we had that experience with Catherine. And then I had another experience with Joe in the hospital that he worked in. And he was in horrendous pain. He had a hip replacement and something had gone wrong. And we were there like for hours. And that was a horrendous experience because there were a lot of people that were drunk. There were a lot of people who were on drugs. And there were a lot of people who really, that wasn't the place for them to be,
Yeah.
So I was kind of half expecting that when I went to the here the first time. So we went in, it was all very civilized. And it was about
And empty.
it was about 5 or 6 people sitting around, and you went to the hatch and you gave your details, and there's a screen and your number is called, and in you go. So that's very different.
I don't think I've ever been waiting in the emergencies area for longer than a half an hour.
Yeah. So recently at the Cartagena one, they had like a traffic light system.
Yeah.
So everybody is an emergency until you'd seen the first person. And they had loads of them. There were about, I think there were 13 rooms. So the television screen with your number. So when you got in, by the time I got there, they'd already printed it out. And because I couldn't really see or look out the head down, they'd be like, in the shirt, so that somebody else could see it. So I was like looking up and sat in a wheelchair. But that bit was really fast. It could only have been 15 minutes. But then, when you came out of there, then you went into the traffic light system. So if you were red, you were urgent. If you were orange, you were, and if you were green, you got a splinter or something. And it was, didn't it? And so the second time, it was probably 45 minutes. But, they treated me as if you stopped it bleeding, they put the stuff on the new life threatening.
Yeah.
And so, and I just thought it's a brilliant system, and it just seemed to work.
Yeah.
But to be fair now to the hospitals in Ireland and in Dublin, it's a little bit different in that Dublin is a huge city.
Yeah.
And
with over 1 million people.
Madrid would probably be similar to Dublin.
It would,
We're going to
So
city hospital.
we went to a hospital here in a much smaller area.
Yeah.
So it's like comparing apples and oranges really, but it's just my experience of what,
Cartagena is a reasonable size. It's not massive.
Yeah.
So I had I think there was 13 triage rooms.
Yeah.
Seemed good.
Yeah.
It seemed to be not just one person and was waiting for it to come out.
Even I've been with someone to Arasaka Hospital just to help them, because they went to emergencies and they needed someone to help translate, and it was like that as well.
And
That's
Arasaka is a big hospital.
big hospital, and it's the main one I think in the Murcia area. So people would come from lots of different regions, and it was pretty similar there. It was really quick. Yeah, very good. The only 2 times I've ever gone to emergencies was when I was giving birth to Max, so it was like, shoo! I didn't even have to sit down, I would just go straight through. and then COVID, I had to bring Max up because we thought he had COVID, but that was a nightmare. But because he was a baby at the time, he was only at the turning 2, and they were like, oh, go straight in. It was like...
No, they don't mess about. They don't seem to mess about with head injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, that was why mine was fast. I mean, kids.
Yeah.
And when I went with the second time with when I lost control of my bladder, it was straight in.
And so what would you say has been easier than you expected dealing with this? And what would you say has been more difficult than you expected?
The more difficult I'd answer first would be the language.
Yeah.
And only the language. That's the only thing that was more difficult. Easier, dealing with the health system is easier because of the portal on your phone.
Yeah. Is that not something that they have? I mean, I've not been there 20 years now. Do they not have something like that?
Maybe not.
I never had. So I don't know what they have now, but I certainly never had. But so that was a new phenomenon to me when that was, and they're always surprised that the foreigners know about this portal, because when they go and I'd say, oh, I have this, I'm like, oh, good again. They say, very good. You know, you're like rewarding you because, oh, you know about that, you know. And they send all your appointments through to that. What I find difficult, actually, now that I think about it, is when you have to go to an outside clinic. For instance, I'm waiting now on an appointment for traumatology. They ring you with the appointment.
Yeah.
Now, I find that difficult because of the language only, because it's more language trying to communicate on the telephone is way more difficult than communicating face to
Also,
face.
in this day and age, it's a number you don't recognise.
Yeah.
The hell,
Well,
actually.
I recognise it. I recognise it. It's right now. You don't. Because sometimes you can't understand. And for instance, the last appointment that I had was on a Sunday in July.
I was like, couldn't be.
You're after getting that wrong. You got that wrong. And that's another thing I must talk about that's very easy. She had said to me, Catherine said to me, it's, no, you definitely got that wrong. In July, a Sunday afternoon appointment.
What?
So we went up to the clinic just to make sure, and I went in and I said, I have an appointment, you know, blah, 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 because it was all in Spanish, and I have an appointment. And she goes, yes, yes. And she wrote it down for me. And I said,
There you go. So people would say that Spanish people are lazy. Working appointments on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of the summer.
And what I found really good here was if you have to go for a mammogram, if you have to go for electromyographias, I had ultrasounds, I've had, you know, scans, all sorts of tests. It's all outsourced into private clinics.
Yeah.
So when you go, I've never had to wait more than 5 minutes. And there's nobody, you're there your allotted time, and there's usually only one or two other people there, and you're getting in straight away to see, they tell you straight away your result. You know, you don't have to wait. Except for the mammogram, because that's done through the screening process through the Murcia Health Service. But besides that, they've given you your results there and then, and of course you're looking at them yourself, to bring them to your doctor, you know, or your doctor gets sent them as well. So that side of the health system, it was fantastic.
I had the same with the man wellness thing, or whatever it's
Did I say
called.
man?
Yeah, man wellness. If you're over 55,
Yeah.
then you have the man, and it's every 2 years. And that was done totally remotely. You know, you've got a message through saying that you've got this appointment, and then it sends you to a link on a page that you print off a document. The document was in English and Spanish.
Okay.
Told me which chemist I had to go to pick up the sample bottle. And then on the sample information, once you've got that was in English in the packet, so you could read it, and then it told you where to take it. I didn't actually see a person. It was all done effectively, totally remotely.
Oh, wow.
And then I got a message on the portal 2 weeks later saying everything's okay.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, I guess if it had been not okay, then you'd
get a phone
call,
happen.
maybe,
But that was all done sort of effectively electronically.
I mean, well, it's a bit different, but now in the Murcia region, I think it's all over Spain, but I'll speak to the Murcia region. They're vaccinating, giving kids the flu. I'm going to say the flu vaccination because it's not a shot, up to 9 years of age now. And so, but it's a nasal one. So it's a spray in each nostril. And so again, it's just like being, if your child was born at a certain date, they sent you out a letter, and then they sent you to your email, they sent you a video. It's all in Spanish, so it wasn't in English as well. Well, I don't know, maybe it's based on the surname of the child, because he's Sanchez. So, but they send a video with, you know, frequently asked questions, explaining to you everything, side effects and things that could happen. And then basically you bring the letter into your child's school, and then the school handles the rest of it. So like, he hasn't had it yet, but we've already handed the letter, and then the school are going to do it then. And it's going to be all kids up to 9 years of age. And they're going to get a flu vaccination in, I think it's all of Spain, but let's just say Murcia for now, just to make sure I'm right. So yeah, it's pretty good.
And their vaccination program is very good here, because once you turn 65, you automatically get the shingles vaccination. So Joe got it a couple of years ago, and you automatically get it. Whereas I think in Ireland, you still have to pay for that, you know, which is about 250 euro. Yeah. And, you know, you get your flu vaccination, you get your pneumonia vaccination once you're over 60. You get your flu, your pneumonia, and your COVID.
And do they contact you, or do you have
No, you get a letter.
Oh, it's great.
You get a letter to say that that you're due to get this shingles vaccination, which is good. But the other ones, then you can book them on your portal. It'll tell you when it starts. You'll get a message to say it's flu season started, so make your appointment now. So you just make your appointment
You
yourself.
went to your portal and that's good, isn't
Yeah.
it? Brilliant.
I mean, it's a long time ago now, but I was very impressed with how they dealt with the COVID injection.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly in Southampton.
Yeah, I was going to say, particularly in the Mercy
Well,
region,
yeah,
COVID
we
overall.
can't speak for anyone
Yeah.
else, but it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so well organised.
Yeah.
And, you know, they set up emergency centres so quickly.
Yeah.
Just
I was always really impressed, although it's not related to health, but how quickly the regional president, Fernando Lopez Miras, said, that's it, close the borders, no one else is coming in. They were bringing the virus down from Madrid and all sorts of places, and he was like, no, we're closed. So when you close the borders, made a decision really quickly, it was
The
great.
funny story about that was I was in work in Dublin and it came on the radio to say Spain is going into complete lockdown. It was a very, very strict lockdown.
It was very quickly.
Yeah.
And then when we thought Max had COVID, part of me still think he had it, but it was so good. As I say, I went to emergencies. I actually called first because you were supposed to call first. But they said usually what we would do is we would send an ambulance around, but as it's a kid, you have to go to emergencies because a pediatrician has to see him, not just a normal, doctor.
Yeah.
And so they sent us, we had to go to the hospital. As I say, when we got there, it was bing, we went straight through. And they brought him straight up to the special kind of COVID area they had done for it. Loads of tests, everything. And then they sent us home and he had to go and get a test, but we had to go to Cartagena to get the test. So they sent us into Cartagena to get the test, and it was in and out. They had it all done so that it wasn't loads of people together, waiting to go in. So it was just us. We arrived, went in, did it, and came straight back out without seeing anybody else. Well, they were all there, aliens or something, covered from head to toe. It was terrifying. And the results came back negative. We hadn't got COVID, so it was great. He just happened to get really, really ill around the same time. Yeah. But yeah, the whole process was amazing.
So looking back over your experiences since you've been here, is there anything that you wish you'd known sooner about the healthcare system back before you came or when you were here?
Not really. I think you have to go through the journey with the healthcare and whatever issue you might have. I think you have to go through that journey yourself to come out holistically at the end where you want to be. That's what I really feel. Maybe don't Google as much as I did. But, Google helped when, as you say, you feel isolated and that, Google helped. And at one point, I kind of really just wanted to go home back to Ireland, to where I could understand, where I had a bigger support network, and I really just felt I wanted to go back to Ireland. But then I thought, could be waiting forever in Ireland. So, so it was a much better system. And I'm really proud that I stuck it out. I learned the language to a better degree, and we got to the end journey. So I think it's really only if I'd known more Spanish. I couldn't reiterate that point.
I'm just thinking now, how long? I mean, not us, because obviously Dad worked in hospital, but generally speaking, if that kind of happened in Ireland, how long would someone be waiting to see a specialist compared to how long you were?
I'm not really sure, but it's quite lengthy. Yeah, it's still quite lengthy. I think unless you have private health insurance and you're going to a private hospital, I think it's still quite lengthy.
And then just to move it along a little bit, how do you feel the lifestyle here, like the food, the walking, the climate, affect your health compared to back home for us being Ireland?
Okay, well, it's much easier to be healthier here. Food is kind of less dodgy here. It's more the fruit and vegetables here. And Dad used to work in the fruit and vegetable market years and years ago, so we got the best of produce. Yeah. But the fruit and vegetables here are amazing, and they're in season, and it's lovely. And embrace the Spanish lifestyle. We try not to stick to we go for the menu del dia, we embrace the Spanish lifestyle. You're always able to get out for a walk. Now, the knee's a bit dodgy, so I can't do too much walking at the moment, but we would walk every day. Normally we'd walk. You can go out every day for a walk. You can sit outside in fresh air. you're not inhaling people's smoke.
Yeah.
You know, now I know the smoking ban is everywhere, but you know, in indoor, but you're not inhaling because you're outdoors. I think COVID had less of a impact here, even though like there's 47 million people in Spain, so a lot of people lost their lives, unfortunately. But it had less, we were more outdoor, you know, so there was less indoor kind of spreading germs or whatever. So definitely it does feel easier to be healthier here because you tend to want to be out more, do you know? And sometimes in the winter, you go out to get a heat because the houses, the properties were built to keep the sun out. They were never built to keep the heat in. So sometimes you go out in the afternoon in the winter to get a heat. Yeah. So that does, you know, it is a factor. But you would go out more and it's much cheaper to eat out, you know. And another thing we've noticed as well since especially in the 5 years I've been here permanently, is that we don't drink half as much alcohol as we would have done in Ireland, do you know? And
It's a totally
we
different
notice
philosophy
when
here.
we have family and friends over, they drink way more than we would now, you know? Like we would go out now and have 3 drinks. We'd never do that in Ireland.
Yeah.
You'd be stacking them up at last orders. You'd stack up 3 or 4 drinks at last orders. And that's something that's completely different. So we've embraced that. And like the Spanish kind of have a patient way of going into a bar or a restaurant and sitting there and waiting until they're served. Whereas we become, you're supposed to keep them, give us a drink. Yeah. Do you know? So that you have to learn that patience, which I have no patience.
Yeah.
But so that's something else that we've embraced as well. You just sit there chatting and wait until they come over, you know. And Spanish people would sit there for one drink, and before we'd be on holidays, we'd go, oh, what's going to do? Have the one drink, you know. Whereas now you kind of go, fair play to them. Yeah, they're sitting there with their one drink and they're still enjoying themselves, you know.
Yeah. And like not feeling pressured. You know, thinking, oh,
another one.
You'll never feel that.
Yeah.
You know, in the UK, you'd always get a pint, wouldn't you? Whereas here, you don't usually get it. You usually get a
Tanya or a Kindle or...
Carl, you know, I've worked with Carl. So Carl's one drink a big drink. He always gets a can.
Yeah. It keeps it cool. It's another thing. We could have added that in our why did they do that? Is that they do tend to get like smaller beers because it goes warm. Yeah. They wouldn't get a pint because it goes warm quickly.
Excuse me, but my husband never will drink a Kenya.
Yeah.
It's always a pint.
It doesn't get warm though.
No, it doesn't get warm.
Didn't get time to get warm.
That's it.
And what was it? Oh, I thought the question there went. So go on to our last question.
Yeah.
Our
I
tip.
think we know the answer to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we need to reiterate all over and over again.
So if you, it's you do.
So if you, we always ask this to everybody at the end of the podcast. If you had one tip to give to people that were moving to Spain to do with the health, but you know, what would that one tip be before they came to Spain?
Well, I'd have 2 tips. So the first one is the language.
Yeah.
Learn the language.
Sure.
And it's not, don't look at it as a chore. Look at it as something that you embrace it, you know, because it is actually helping when you get older, your brain activity. Do you know, it helps to, you know, keep the old grey matter going. And the second tip I would say is get your paperwork in order, because if you do get sick, the last thing you want is having to be dealing with it while you are ill.
Yeah.
So
there's so many things like that, aren't there? Like things like with the will that you don't want to talk about, the funeral plan that you don't want to talk about, but talk about it when you're all right and you don't need it.
Yeah.
You know, I find it so difficult to like with my kids, you know, telling them I've sorted the will out. You know, but I like saying, why?
Yeah.
You know,
When you're sick.
but no, it's because it's the right time to do it. It's the same with that. If you know you need all that paperwork, you know, if you can get a copy of your medical history if you come in here and things like that, do it now. Don't do it when it's needed. You know, that's vital time, isn't it? Like if you're ill, you know, the time needs to be to get you right, not trying to find paperwork and trying to sort out things.
Well, and then to wrap up, do you want to give people, well, there's not really a conclusion because I guess it's still ongoing, but just let people where you are now on your health journey to finish it all.
Well, my back is much better. It's still healing because when you're my vintage, your body takes ages to heal. And because I was doing things wrong for about a full year, I'm a year and a half healing my back. So yeah, it's still healing, but I wouldn't have been able to sit in this chair 6 months ago for this length of time, do you know? So yeah, I'm a lot better. So we're getting there, nearly there with the back. But my knee now, I might be facing into surgery for my knee, but I'm not sure. But if my motto is, if I can eat and exercise any illness or injury away, that's what I'll do first.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with trying to strengthen the legs a bit more.
Brilliant. Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Tell us all about that. I think that's going to be a great episode. Yeah, because I think it's something people worry about, isn't it? Like, what happens when I've just made them get ill?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the conclusion is that I think that the Spanish system is very good.
Yeah.
But you need to be aware that you're in a country where there is a different language.
Yeah.
It's so important. Imagine if you couldn't explain yourself in the UK what it'd be like. You have to get that. So important. And if when you first come, it does take time to learn a language. You must take a translator.
Slayer. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. And please don't forget to subscribe. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music. So please subscribe to those. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps us get higher up in the rankings so more people will see it. The more people that see it, we can get more guests on things. So please, write us a review if you like it, or write us a review if you don't like it. I prefer if you do like it. It really helps, honestly. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you.